Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. This oversight hearing of the Subcommittee on Disability Assistance and Memorial Affairs will now come to order. Before I begin today with today's hearing topic, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the events of today's day 12 years ago when a series of coordinated terror attacks were launched in New York City and here in Washington, D.C. With New Jersey's 3rd District in close proximity to New York City, the impact of September 11th attacks were felt immediately to many of those in my district and across our country. Those wounds are still healing as many of our nation's service members and veterans have served post 9/11 in support of the Homeland Defense in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other overseas operations. On the anniversary of September 11th and every day, we must all appreciate and remember what American veterans have done to secure our freedoms. I know the Ranking Member, Ms. Titus, and other members of the DAMA subcommittee share my commitment to ensuring that every hearing we hold addresses the important issues concerning those who have bravely served our nation. And that is why we're here today to focus on fully developed claims process, or FDC, to look at this as an avenue to speed up the claims process for our veterans. And FDC is an optional program through the Veterans Benefits Administration that allows veterans to receive a faster decision on their claim by certifying that all relevant records are in their possession and have been obtained and submitted, rather than just filing the claim and having VA perform this development. In addition, Congress passed a law last year that went into effect August 6, 2013, allowing claimants to receive up to 1 year of retroactive benefits as an incentive for filing an FDC. In order to increase awareness for these incentives, VA has partnered with various veteran service organizations, and many of whom are here today to testify about their outreach efforts and experience with the FDC program. However, this committee will always remain vigilant in its oversight of this and all other new VA incentives. It is critical to ensure that the program is truly helping veterans receive more timely and accurate benefit decisions, rather than just looking for ways to shift VA's workload. With that, I would like to welcome our witnesses and thank you all for being here today. Our first panel will consist of Mr. Thomas Murphy, Director of Compensation Service for the Direct Service with the Department of Veterans Affairs. Our second panel will consist of several VSOs, including Ms. Verna Jones, Director of Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation Commission for the American Legion, Mr. Stephen Wolf, Assistant National Service Director for the Disabled American Veterans, and Ms. Diane Zamato, the National Legislative Director for AMVETS, and Mr. W. Clyde Marsh, the President of the National Association of State Directors of Veterans Affairs. We also have several statements for the record that have been submitted from various organizations, and I would like to thank all of those who submitted them for today's hearing. With those instructions complete, I'm eager to hear from all of our witnesses on the implementation of the FDC process, and I would now yield to our ranking member, Ms. Titus, for her opening statement.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for those remarks about the anniversary of September 11th. It's something that we can't say often enough. And thank you for holding this hearing. I think it's a very important topic. You mentioned the much discussed backlog, and I'm happy to report and give credit where credit's due that the VA has reduced the claims inventory by nearly 150,000 veterans in pretty short order. Nearly all the claims that have been pending for over 2 years have been processed, and the VA is working hard to eliminate all those claims pending over 1 year by the end of 2013. Also, the VA has rolled out its electronic processing system in all 56 VA regional offices. That was done earlier this summer and ahead of schedule to attempt to get rid of all the piles of paper that we've used in the past. We know, though, that there's no quick fix, and there's still a lot that needs to be done to address the backlog. There's still 7,000 claims that have been pending for over 125 days as of September 9th. So we've got work to do. There are over 5,000 that have been pending for that long in the state of Nevada alone, and this is just too many. One's too many, but this is certainly too many. The recent dip in the backlog has been the culmination of more than 4 years of effort and planning by the VA, and it's a direct result of a number of the initiatives that have been introduced within the VA's transformation plan. And today, another program in this plan is the one that we'll be discussing, as you talked about, the fully developed claims FDC initiative, and the one-year look back for benefits for those who file claims in this way that took effect on August the 6th. The Fully Developed Claims Initiative establishes a method for veterans with the help of their advocates and many of you in this room and the service organizations and the DOD to gather records and provide all the necessary evidence that you need for processing a claim. And the average that we've heard is today the VA is able to adjudicate those claims in about 123 days, which should help a lot to lower the backlog, and because that's much more quickly than the old way of doing those things. So I want to commend the efforts of all our VSOs who've been helping with this, American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, National Association of State Directors of Veterans Affairs. Without your help and your close partnership with the VA, I don't think this initiative would have been possible. Over the August recess, I held a meeting and a training session in District 1 in Las Vegas with the local VSOs and the director of the Reno office and a training officer to have a personal connection to try to show how to make this work better, how to get the word out, how to communicate with veterans what they need, and I think it was a very successful session. They said they appreciated the one-on-one connection as opposed to just a computer training, and so I would encourage members of this committee and all members of Congress to reach out to their local VSOs to have similar events and promote this effort. I also want to thank my friend from Texas, Mr. O'Rourke, who has introduced legislation to help educate veterans about this initiative to make it work better. So I hope we'll be considering that in short order. I remain with the chairman committed to working with the VA and the VSOs to always improve the care and services that our veterans deserve and to get them to them in a timely manner. So I'm optimistic about this new initiative and hope that it will contribute to that goal. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will yield back.
Thank the gentlelady, and this time I'd like to welcome our first panel and our first witness, Mr. Thomas Murphy, who is the Director of Compensation Service with the Veterans Benefits Administration of the Department of VA. Your complete and written statement will be entered into the hearing record. And Mr. Murphy, you are now recognized for 5 minutes for your oral testimony.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to discuss the Department of Veterans Affairs fully developed claim program. Claims are considered to be fully developed when a veteran submits a VA Form 21-526-EZ in either paper or electronic format, as well as 1, all available supporting evidence such as private treatment records, 2, notification to VA of any relevant federal treatment records, and 3, they certify they have nothing further to give to VA regarding the claim. FDCs are essential to achieving VA's goal of completing claims within 125 days at 98% accuracy in 2015. This is the fastest way to receive a decision on a claim because all evidence needed from the veteran is submitted with the claim. As of August 30th, VA completes FDCs in an average of 123 days. This is less than half the time it takes to do through the traditional process. When a veteran submits evidence with his or her claim, it significantly reduces the amount of time VA spends on it. While some development may still be necessary, such as obtaining federal records or providing examinations, FDCs eliminate the need for VA to search for evidence. The time saved in this critical step translates directly to reducing processing time benefiting both the veteran and the VA. VA is continuing to implement several people, process, and technology initiatives, including FDCs, to meet the department's goal. As of August 31st, these efforts have reduced the backlog to about 460,000 claims, a nearly 25% reduction off of its peak in March of 2013. VA is required to assist the veteran in substantiating a claim for compensation or other benefits. This is known as duty to assist and a duty to notify. These duties are met through the veteran's use of the VA Form 21-526-EZ and the submission of all supporting evidence. There are circumstances that affect VA's ability to process an FDC in an expedited manner, causing VA to exclude these claims from the program. These reasons include a claim or appeal which is already pending on behalf of the veteran. The wrong form is used. The form isn't signed when submitted. A veteran submits additional evidence after filing the fully developed claim. The VA must obtain evidence from a non-federal source, or veteran misses or reschedules medical examinations. Through better outreach and training, we have reduced the exclusion rate from about 25% at the beginning of this fiscal year to less than 13% today. VA is aggressively pursuing an expansion of the FDC program and has conducted a number of outreach initiatives to encourage participation. FDC webinars have been held for claimants interested in the program, and we have advertised it through press releases, social media, and at all VA facilities nationwide. VA has also distributed an FDC toolkit to every congressional office that contains information for inclusion on web pages and in correspondence with constituents. VA continues to rely on our VSO partners in spreading the message about fully developed claims. We partnered with the American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, and the National Association of State Directors of Veterans Affairs in order to form the Community of Practice. VA's Community of Practice partners are helping to identify best practices in the FDC program so they can be shared nationwide. In addition, each VA regional office is conducting an FDC workshop for veteran service organizations and other partners. It's designed to ensure all stakeholders understand the importance of this program. Some of your staffers have attended these workshops. Community practice partners are committed to increasing the numbers of FDCs they file on behalf of veterans that they represent. In each case, the organization indicates a commitment to supporting FDC submissions. In some cases, it's providing appropriate training, and in others, it's a higher percentage of submissions. Some state departments of Veterans Affairs, like California and Texas, are even hiring additional staff. Through these efforts by VA and our VSO partners, we've already received over 148,000 fully developed claims so far this fiscal year. This represents almost 15% of receipts. So far this last quarter, almost 25% of claims submitted are through the FDC process. Public Law 112-154 provided the authority to grant 1 year of retroactive compensation benefits for veterans who file an original claim that is fully developed and received between August 6, 2013 and August 5, 2015. Interim guidance was issued on August 2nd. It instructed regional offices on the requirements for granting retroactive benefits while the regulations are being developed. The fully developed program is a key component of VA's transformation plan, but VA continues to prioritize other specific categories and claims, including claims of seriously wounded, ill, and injured, Medal of Honor recipients, former prisoners of war, homeless veterans, terminally ill, and those experiencing extreme financial hardship. Our partners and advocates have fully embraced the FDC program and made commitments accordingly. VA continues to reach out and educate on the fastest way to receive a decision. This concludes my statement, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to answer any questions you or other members of the subcommittee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy, and I'll begin with a few questions. And the first thing that really enters my mind, the dual process. You have the rating, which this FDC gets you to faster, but the development of that. Are there two different job descriptions for a developer and a rater? Or are they done by similar same people?
There's a RVSR rater and there's a VSR developer, and they are distinct job descriptions.
Because it goes, going the next step, noting that the average processing time for RFDCs is 123 days. And if this is the fastest way to process the claim, is it feasible for VA to process all claims, including non-FDCs, in 125 days before the 2015 deadline?
Yes, it is. There's a multitude of moving parts here that all add up to all claims processed in 2015 less than 125 days. FDC is one arrow in the quiver, I guess would be the way to put it. Yes, it is possible.
But here's my hang up on that, because when you say processing of an FTC is 123 days, that's already saying that the VSOs already did the development on that case. I'm not combining the numbers here. It's when you look at it, if a veteran sends you a claim that's not fully developed, you could be up in your 300-day range mark, correct?
If they send one that's not fully developed,
Yes.
yes, it can be in that 300-day range mark.
So I talk about this all the time where we kind of play a shell game, I think, sometimes with the metrics. The actual rating of the claim isn't sped up any faster, correct?
In the fully developed claim, the actual rating time on the claim,
The
yes,
only,
that's a
the
correct.
only statistic I see, it happens 2 days faster than a non-FDC at the rating mark.
From the ready for decision phase to the time that it's promulgated stays the same, regardless if it's fully developed claim or not.
Okay. And you note in your written testimony that developing a claim takes an average of 128 days. That's what we were kind of talking about. If the existing current law remains as is, how is the VA planning to improve the development process? Are you trying to push everyone to FDCs?
Okay. The development process is reduced in the fully developed claim because when you lay out, there runs, depending on the veteran, anywhere from 4 to as many as 10 different parallel paths for development. And if I'm coming on a fully developed claim on a veteran that already has a service connection, they're looking for a straight claim for increase. I already have that veteran's service records. I already have their personnel records. I already have their VA medical records. And I simply need any private medical evidence that the veteran wishes to submit, and in some cases, a VA examination, which I can do fairly quickly. And that saving of that time, not having to send notices back and forth, and meaning specifically VCAA notices or requests for information from private physicians, all of that translates into faster processing time. And it just reduces that 128-day average down.
On the development end of it.
Exactly.
And then next thing I want to touch on is some of your partnerships, and just asking you to provide some details with those partnerships. Recently, the VA and the American Bar Association announced a partnership that would provide pro bono attorneys assist on pending claims and basically develop FDCs on behalf of unrepresented veterans. Could you provide any details on that, how that partnership is moving forward?
We're doing a pilot to see how well this process will work in 2 regional offices with a select number of cases in conjunction with the American Bar Association. And it's only piloted with unrepresented veterans, meaning they do not have a POA, it's a VSO at this time. The veteran is being contacted through mail and being offered this option. They have to select into the process, in which case we'll refer them to the American Bar Association office, who will put them in contact with an attorney that's willing to do some pro bono work on behalf of that veteran. Once we see the results of how that pilot works, we'll determine is there a benefit and how we would move it out on a bigger scale.
And are there any of them in the pipeline?
We just started the process. We're just a few weeks into it at this point.
Thus far going well?
So thus far, no.
Okay. Likewise, the VA just partnered with the College of William & Mary Law School Veterans Law Clinic to identify best practices in the FDC program. Could you provide any details on that partnership?
The College of William and Mary is signed up as part of the community of practice and helping with the veterans at that school and others to, again, develop claims much like the American Bar Association is signed on to do with us.
Have they brought any of those best practices that you've noticed to the table that have helped the process?
I don't have any knowledge of that yet. I'm not saying that it hasn't happened. I'm just saying that I haven't been involved with that to that degree where I can give you an answer to that one.
If you find some, would you please forward them?
I would be happy to.
With that, I'll yield to the ranking member, Ms. Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to look a little more closely at the numbers, because sometimes when you give us national numbers that mask problems that may exist at regional offices, do you have, excuse me, the metrics for Reno, which is the office that serves my district in Las Vegas, and the other regional offices? And do you see any patterns or have any notion of the buy-in from the different offices, what makes one more successful than another, what we might do to help those that aren't being as successful?
Yes, let's start with Reno. It's been approximately, rounded up, approximately 1,600 claims submitted through the fully developed claim process in Reno. Represents 23-24% of the claims received in the state. That puts Reno in one of the top 10 performing offices in terms of FDC submissions for this fiscal year so far. The other part of your question was, do we have that for all offices? Yes, we do. We track it in great detail. We share that information with the veteran service organizations, with the state directors, with the county veteran service officers. And the reason we do that is, the third part of your question was, what's effective and how does it work and how do you get better numbers? And the answer is direct involvement through the national, the state, and the county veteran service officers in partnership with the regional office and the staff in that regional office. 70% of our veterans that come through and submit claims are represented by a power of attorney. So having those power of attorneys buy into the process the way we're doing through the community and practice and other events is absolutely critical to the success of this program. And if you go back and look at the numbers, first quarter of the fiscal year, we brought approximately 5.2% of the claims in through the fully developed claim process. As of this quarter, we're at 24 point something, rounded up to 25%. And that's in small part the VA, but it's primarily in part because the veteran service organizations have stepped up and said, this is the best way to take care of veterans. Let's drive this program.
That's great. You also mentioned some of the things that will keep a claim from being assessed as fully developed, the wrong information or adding information. Do veterans know ahead of time what's really required of them? And if they make a mistake, do they have an option to appeal, or are they just thrown out of the system? Are they aware of that going into the process?
Well, let me take it from a little bit bigger picture and dig her down, okay?
Okay.
I need veterans coming in through the fully developed claim process. It makes me more efficient. It makes me put through more claims with the same number of people. So right off the bat, I need to get that number down to a single-digit percentage and as low, close to zero, as I possibly can do that. So I need an inclusionary process here. We're constantly looking at our website, explaining to people, if you come in through the electronic environment, I can steer you where I need you to go because I can steer the questions you see and the screens that you do. So I can reduce that rate of claims that are rejected. In the paper process, which veterans still have the option to do, the veteran can complete as much or as little as they choose to do on that form, and that's going to dictate whether or not I can put that claim into the fully developed claim process. So our best tool against that one is the veteran files the claim using their power of attorney, and I have well-educated veteran service organizations at every level in the organization talking to veterans to make sure that they complete that paper process in the best environment. At the same time, we've given the veteran service organizations tools to allow them to come in through the stakeholder entry portal and complete that fully developed claim electronically on behalf of the veteran.
Well, if they are rejected in the program, is there an appeal? Can they try it again? Too bad? How does that work?
I don't believe we have an appeal process in place on a claim that's removed from the fully developed claim process. Now, just because a claim is removed from the fully developed claim process doesn't mean that, oh, we're going to put you over here and you're on the 280-day track. I inject the claim into the process at the furthest step that I possibly can, giving the development that's needed. So if you didn't sign the form, but you've given me all of the evidence that you need, I return the form to you, you sign it, it comes back, it has all the evidence, and it steps into the process at the right step and moves forward from there.
So it's not back at ground zero.
Exactly. We take the claim when submitted and put it in the furthest step in the process we can, given the information contained in that claim.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. Before I recognize Mr. Cook, I want to get one question in. Have you seen an increased number in the FDCs as a result of the one-year early effective date on provision that was effective August 6th, 2013? Have you seen an increase in the filings?
We're seeing an increase every week because of multiple efforts going on here. But to come back and attribute it to specifically how much is attributable to that 1 year, I don't have that number for you.
Okay. With that, Mr. Cook? Mr. O'Rourke is recognized. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Mr. Cook for yielding, and I think we have a shared interest in the line of questioning I'll start with, and hopefully Mr. Cook will follow up. But the average wait time to hear back on a service-connected disability claim in El Paso, which is served out of the Waco regional office, and actually for all communities in Texas served out of Waco, is now 463 days. In our district office in El Paso, Texas, we're handling hundreds of constituent issues. We're the largest binational community in the world, so you can imagine the number of visa and immigration issues, a lot of Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, but all of those are trumped by the number of disability claim cases for which we become the primary advocate for the veteran in El Paso. I've had grown men call me in tears because they've been waiting for years to hear back on a service-connected disability claim. They're injured because of their service to this country. They can no longer work, meet their mortgage obligations. Their home is being taken by the bank. They can't provide for their families, and they can't get a straight answer, yes or no, from the government. I had a chance to go to Waco to see some of the issues firsthand. I saw one veteran's case being wheeled around on a hand truck to be boxed, sent somewhere else to be scanned, sent somewhere else again to be stored in a warehouse. You've outlined some of the reasons why filing a fully developed claim and filing one online makes a lot of sense for you all. You said, I can do more work, process more claims without hiring more people. And in a time of sequester where we are unlikely to see greater public resources to meet the demands of the veterans in our communities, and we're expected to do more with less in government, why are you not supportive of the Faster Filing Act, which passed unanimously out of this subcommittee and out of the full Veterans Affairs Committee, which would help the veteran and by extension help you to make the best decision for their interests in getting a response back in a period of under 125 days or maybe even under 100 days if they file it online, would save you money, would allow them a year's worth of retroactive benefits, and it makes a ton of common sense and follows some of the things that you're doing already. And for those who don't know, the Faster Filing Act requires the VA to alert a veteran to the fastest and slowest way to process that claim. The fastest is a fully developed claim filed online. The slowest is one that's not fully developed, that is filed in a paper format. We're just asking the VA in this bill to provide that information to the veteran. He'll make the best decision in his or her best interest. It will likely be the best decision for your interests in managing your operations and getting that wait time and total backlog inventory down. And yet, when we asked for you to adopt these as administrative procedures, we got a letter back yesterday from Secretary Shinseki claiming that this would place a significant administrative burden on the agency. It would impose difficulties. In essence, it's just too much trouble for you all to do this. We're trying to get to the same place. We're trying to provide the information to the veterans so that they can get an answer quickly. Why won't you support us in this?
I believe one of the comments the Secretary put in that letter was that we support the bill in concept, but there is some administrative burden in there which will detract from the processing of claims and divert resources from processing claims in order to do that. And I think that in concept with what you have in the bill, we like what's there, but we would love the opportunity to sit down and have some conversations about where we see those administrative burdens and how we can get what we see as beneficial to the VA and the veteran and limit some of those administrative burdens that we're talking about here.
I may be able to understand that it might require a little bit of work up front. I think your even short and certainly medium and long-term gains would recoup that initial investment and cost many, many, many times over for you and for the veteran to know up front that I'm going to get an answer back in less than 123 days if I go this way, but I'm likely to wait in Waco 463 days or whatever it is at that time. If I go the other way, they'll make the best decision. And I think it just makes so much obvious sense to me that I frankly, I can't understand your answer. I think it's why this has been endorsed by the IAVA. It's been endorsed by the American Legion. It's strongly supported by other veterans service organizations. I wish you had given us your feedback and concerns prior to this passing out of the subcommittee, the full committee. It's going to go to the floor of the House. I hope that it passes. It's endorsed on a bipartisan basis. I wish you would work with us instead of working against us on this one. And Mr. Chair, I'll yield back.
Well, gentleman's time from California has expired. If the gentleman from Texas would like his 5 minutes now, he's recognized.
I will yield to the gentleman from California.
Gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Obviously, I share Mr. O'Rourke's concern. We had sent a letter, I co-signed that, and I got to be honest with you, to get it back the day before the night of the hearing, where you're trying to be prepared and ask the pertinent questions, I wasn't too happy. And I know you're busy. We're all busy, and but the rationale, at least I think we worked on this because we wanted the claimant to have more information. And a lot of the people are very, very confused about the process. I've gone through this. I'm confused. And I'm sorry. First of all, just the culture of answering. Everybody talks in acronyms. And maybe I understand most of them and everything like that. And we've got to stop using the acronyms. And I'll get on my high horse and I'll say the same thing over and over again. Don't use terms that lawyers use and problematic, and just be very, very straight with the veterans. That's the environment that they have operated in. I think they want to know the straight scoop. And I'm just a dumb Marine. And I always go by the old principle, the KISS principle. And maybe it was invented for me specifically. Keep it simple, stupid. And just to get that information out there. And I think oftentimes when it's user-friendly and they understand some of the problems and the delays and everything that's going on, there wouldn't be this perception that the VA is the enemy. And, I've heard most of the things that I deal with in my district are veterans, and some of them are not happy, and I'm sure you do a lot of great goods. We're always trying to take care of those ones that are, something is wrong, and it's tough. And I think the purpose of the bill was right on target about trying to make sure that we made it simpler, that they would know exactly what's going on. And I read the second page here, and I was a little miffed at it. And it's like basically, we got an admin burden. We're too busy. Sorry about that. Try again next year. And that was just my take on it. And I've said repeatedly, some of these, I think you're making tremendous progress. I think the fact that more and more people are filing claims, it's very, very difficult. And I understand that. But I always go back to the bottom line. I don't understand a lot of things that you do, and I apologize for that. But I always learn that I always try and take care of my troops. And those are, so if it's easier to understand what's going on and what they have to do without the acronyms in it, then I'm going to support something like that. So if you could address that.
I got to break the comments on the bill into two halves. One of them is about the providing information to a veteran. We're already programming our website based on your letter to the Secretary and other information from others to include that information on the website and make it publicly available. The objection is not about providing information to veterans about the performance of the fully developed claim and what's the fastest way to put a claim through the process. It's about the administrative burden of providing notices and signatures on the part of the veteran, and it turns into what came out of the VCAA with the duty to notify process. And it can have an unintended second-level consequence of slowing the claim process down. That's the part of this bill that we want to avoid. There's a Veterans Claim Assistance Act where we have to notify a veteran of what it takes to submit a claim and what it takes to adjudicate a claim.
Congressman O'Rourke's comment about working together, I don't know whether we could sit down and explain our concerns. I think we're all trying to do the same thing. And maybe if we could get there where we go through this, then maybe we could have a consensus on how to accomplish that. I'd be willing to do that.
I agree, Congressman Cook. I think we're just trying to work out a few of the details to accomplish the very same thing.
Okay.
Information in the hands of a veteran makes a veteran to do an informed decision, and it'll get them more involved in my process, which makes me faster. It's
Okay.
not a bad thing.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. With that, I'd recognize the gentlelady from California, Ms. Nagat McLeod. No questions? That. Recognize the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Bill Arakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. And I was reading the testimony of the PVA, and they have a concern, and I'm going to ask the question for the gentleman, my concern as well. It says another key concern relates to the potential erosion of due process should a veteran disagree with an FDC decision or desire to add evidence later that supports a higher rating. By agreeing to submit an FDC, claimants essentially waive their rights to contest the decision in exchange for a faster decision. Do you have any comments on that, sir?
The veteran's not waiving any rights. They're opting into a process which can help accelerate it faster. But the veteran at any time, if they believe they have other evidence which can result in a higher award, can submit that evidence any time in the process can submit that evidence. And in addition to that, if the decision is already made, they can file a new claim or go back in and open an old existing claim. So this is not meant to be an exclusionary, I'm going to do this and I'm only allowed to go this path forever. This is at the veteran's discretion. They have the ability to include the evidence they want submitted and participate in this process. In return for that, they help us get to a faster decision, resulting in a faster decision on their claim.
To meet with the PVA with regard to this concern?
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, very good. All the other questions, most of the questions were asked. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for holding this hearing. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlemen. With that, I'll recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Ruiz. No questions? Any other members have any further questions? Nope. Mr. Murphy, on behalf of the subcommittee, I thank you for your testimony today. Look forward to continuing to work with you on these important matters, and you are excused. And at this time, I'd like to welcome our second panel to the witness table. First, we'll hear from Ms. Verna Jones, Director of Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation Commission for the American Legion. And second, we will hear from Mr. Stephen Wolf, the Assistant National Service Director for Disabled American Veterans. Next, we will hear from Ms. Diane Zumato, the National Legislative Director for AMVETS. And finally, we will hear from Mr. W. Clyde Marsh, President of National Association of State Directors of Veterans Affairs. Your complete and written statements will be entered in the hearing record. And Ms. Jones, I will recognize you now for 5 minutes for your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Runyon, Ranking Member Titus, and members of the committee. Thank you for inviting the American Legion to testify today about the Fully Developed Claims Program. I'm excited about this Fully Developed Claims Program because we, the American Legion, have been deeply involved since the beginning, and we're finding that this program can be a great example of what happens when all the players, the veterans, the VSOs, Congress, and the VA all work together to get things done. When everyone works together, it's the veteran who wins. There was a lot of initial resistance about the FDC program. There were people who had the mindset that, isn't this just making the VSOs do the work of the VA? Isn't this putting too much of a burden on the veteran? That's not how it works. Our service officers are already trained to put together as much of the information up front for every claim for VA, for every veteran that they work on. They're doing the same work that we've always done, but now the VA is moving faster, and the veteran has a hand in their own, the processing of their claim. When the VA gets this claim, they can do a better job because they have everything they know the veteran wants to give to them, and they know the claim is in good order. We've been studying this intensively for about almost a year now, and we've conducted some week-long visits. We did 8 visits, and we did visit Reno as well. We went to 8 regional offices to see how the process was working and see how it was working out in the field. We're finding that what works is when everyone buys into this process, but it has to be buy-in on both sides of the street. If the VA leadership in an office does not believe in the program, then you're not going to see as much success as the offices where VA leadership buys into the program. And by the same token, we've had to do a lot of work with our own service officers. We went out to those regional offices, we talked to our American Legion service officers, we looked at the FDC claims, and we found training opportunities to make sure that we were giving the VA a better quality product to work with. I've seen what we can accomplish when we do this right. Veterans are getting decisions in less than 125 days. We've seen out in different offices where they get them in 90 days, 60 days, and a few even 30 days from the time they submit it to the time that the claim was adjudicated. We're working hard to commit our service officers to this program because it gets better results for veterans, and we're hoping that VA is making the same push to their leadership to get more consistent results from all the offices. In offices like Indianapolis, it took buy-in from all levels, from the RO director down to the employees and to the American Legion service officers and the other service organizations. They were ultimately so successful that they had to add additional lanes for the program, and even at that high volume, they continued to turn out better results for the veterans. Offices where you didn't really see the buy-in, we were disappointed in Baltimore, which could use some help in dealing with the backlog. Baltimore was aggressively excluding veterans from the FDC program. That's what we found during our FDC visits. An example is in Baltimore, they had a veteran. They spent more time trying to exclude a Pentagon 9/11 veteran out of the FDC program than the time it would have taken to adjudicate that claim. We have to start with the basic question: is this going to help the veteran? With FDC, we believe the answer is yes. There are some things that they can do to make it better. For example, work with the National Guard and Reserve veterans in this program. The last decade has certainly shown the men and women of the National Guard and Reserves are just as involved in defending this nation as the active duty troops. We should be working to make sure they don't get left out. When we see how effective this can be and how great the turnaround results are for the veterans who qualify, it can take away the pressure and some of the resources needed to work on the claims of the veterans who don't qualify for this program. We realize this has to be an important part of turning around the backlog. Thank you again for putting the focus on this program. It is important with oversight to see not only what doesn't work, but the things that are working so we can highlight the way forward. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have for me.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And with that, I'll recognize Mr. Wolf for his testimony. Turn your mic on, Mr. Wolf.
Chairman Runyon, Ranking Member Titus, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for inviting DAV to testify on VBA's fully developed claims program so that we can share some of our observations and recommendations. After working 10 years in the field and recently accepting my position in Washington, D.C. earlier this month, I never thought I'd be here testifying even before my boxes have been unpacked. However, I'm honored to be here, and I hope my insight and experiences can benefit your work. During my tenure in Chicago VA Regional Office, I was fortunate to have been involved from the beginning with one of the first and most successful FDC programs. Working together with VARO Director Dwayne Honeycutt and his staff, DAV and other BSOs have made Chicago a model for other stations on how to execute the FDC program. I believe that the most important ingredients necessary for the FDC program to be widely successful is having a strong commitment and open communication between VBA, BSOs, and veterans. Earlier this year, DAV, along with the American Legion, joined the VA to establish the FDC Community of Practice, dedicating ourselves submitting as many FDC claims as possible. I saw firsthand in Chicago how much difference it makes when you have complete buy-in from VBA and VSOs. One important component of this success was the creation of a dedicated FDC Program Coordinator, whose primary and perhaps only mission is to be responsible for the FDC program. DAV believes that every regional office should designate at least one individual to serve as this FDC coordinator. In the beginning, one of the major obstacles the FDC program was the exclusion process, which is the act of removing or disqualifying a claim from the FDC program. In many instances, claims are excluded from the FDC program for reasons that could have been easily avoided simply by contacting claimant directly or one of the service officers, requesting any identified or missing evidence to be submitted. In Chicago, in an unprecedented event and approach, Director Honeycutt reached out to DAV and offered to contact our NSOs by email, in which case we're being prepared this veterans from being excluded from the FDC program. This simple act of communication allows our NSOs the opportunity to contact the claimant to easily resolve these issues, thereby avoiding the exclusion and allowing the claim to remain in the FDC program. DAV also believes that this approach should be made national policy. Additionally, we believe VBA needs to review and revise the policy on excluding FDC claims when additional evidence is submitted, even though that evidence needs no additional development. For example, in Chicago, I had a veteran who submitted an increased claim for a back condition. Later on, he submitted additional X-ray evidence. Under current VBA rules, the submission of this additional X-ray evidence should have prompted removal from the FDC program. However, the VBA employee contacted our NSO indicated that because this evidence requires no additional development, there should be no reason to remove it from the FDC program. This is another common sense practice that should be adopted and made national policy. DAV believes that making veterans aware of advantages of the FDC process is absolutely essential for the greater claimant participation. In addition to regularly promoting the FDC program through our website, magazine, meetings, and conferences, DAV also conducts formal orientation classes. In Chicago, DAV-led orientation classes are held weekly and offered to potential claimants or anyone interested in learning about the FDC process, including VBA employees and other VSOs. Locally, we have agreements with the VSOs so their claimants they represent can come to our DAV orientation classes to learn about the FDC program. Participants are provided detailed information about FDC programs, requirements, how to file an informal FDC, what to expect after filing the FDC claim, and what actions would exclude their claim from the FDC program. The feedback from the majority of our claimants is that they are excited to be involved from the get-go, especially knowing they can play a major role in speeding their decision process. Mr. Chairman, DAV believes the FDC program has been extremely successful and having a positive impact on reducing the backlog of disability claims. We look forward to the program's continued success and working with VBA and Congress to make that happen. This concludes my statements. I'll be happy to answer any questions you or your members of the subcommittee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. And with that, I'll recognize Ms. Amato for her testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman Runyon, Ranking Member Titus, and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to allow AMVETS to voice both our praise and concerns regarding VA's efforts to reduce the claims backlog via the fully developed claims program. AMVETS fully supports the submission of complete claims packages, as we are aware that any other position hurts both our veterans and the VA employees working their claims. Notwithstanding the fact that VA completed a record-breaking 1 million claims per year in fiscal years 2010 through 2012, the number of claims received continues to exceed the number processed. In response to this disturbing trend, VA began implementing a comprehensive transformation plan meant to increase productivity and accuracy of disability claims processing. While the FDC program is merely one element of this plan, it is hoped that, once fully implemented, that it will substantially contribute to the elimination of the claims backlog. Filing an FDC is undoubtedly the fastest way for veterans to receive a decision on their disability claims, as it takes the onus of locating documents off of the VA and puts it on the veteran. Under the FDC program, veterans are required to provide all supporting documents and records with their original claims. When veterans are able to meet this criteria, it significantly reduces the amount of time VA needs to accurately process their claims, as well as the veteran's wait time. According to the VBA's Monday morning workload report, under the FDC program, the number of pending claims has dropped from the high water mark of 919,461 on 16 July 2012 to the current level of 760,820 pending claims on 24 August 2013. Additionally, the number of claims in the backlog has declined from 633,469 on 25 March of this year to 459,998 on August 31st of 2012. One major concern that AMVETS does have with the FDC program is the removal of the veteran's dependence information from a veteran's claim. Dependents have now been relegated to an award adjustment action. AMVETS sees this as an ineffective and less efficient way to work, since a claim with dependents must now be touched multiple times instead of only once before it is finalized and authorized. Since the FDC started in May 2010, the number of pending dependence issues has increased from a monthly average of 40,000 to 205,467, according to the 24 August MMWR. This seems to suggest that we are merely shifting the backlog of claims from veterans to their dependents. We at AMVETS have a major concern with the new backlog of dependent award actions. The 205,000 pending issues are merely the ones that VA has identified. How many veterans who are entitled to dependents allowance have not been identified? Currently, that number is unknown. Any way you look at it, the removal of dependents from veterans' claims does not make sense. VA's own annual reports since 2005 show that for the majority of rating decisions, veterans qualify for dependents allowance. This has steadily climbed from 51% in 2005 to 56%, as noted in the 2011 annual report, which is the most current report available. Additionally, it is of critical importance that sufficient funds be allocated to manage the backlog and to provide multiple levels of oversight as part of the VA's attempt to correct this situation. I would like to conclude my remarks by noting for the record that AMVETS fully supports both Secretary Shinseki and Undersecretary for Benefits Hickey. We need to ensure that the VA's leadership has the necessary resources to fix the system. This concludes my remarks. I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Motto. Mr. Marsh is now recognized for his testimony.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the committee, my name is Clyde Marsh. I'm the president of the National Association of State Directors of Veterans Affairs and the director of the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs. I'm honored to present the views of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and 5 U.S. territories on the implementation of the very important Fully Developed Claim Program. As state governmental agencies, we are charged with the duty of assisting veterans in filing claims for disability, compensation, pension, and survivor benefits. We strongly support the concept, methodology, and strategy undertaken by VBA in the current FDC program as one of several means to reduce the current veterans claims backlog while also reducing time for a rating decision. To help facilitate success of this program, each state will endeavor to provide specific mission guidance, goals, and checklists to increase both the quantity of submissions as well as the quality of claims. In addition to our association's support, to date, 46 of our states and territories have submitted letters of commitment to VA in support of FDCs. The provision that provides for up to 1 year for retroactive effective date for awards of disability compensation is an incentive for veterans to file FDCs. This change serves to negate the need for veterans to submit informal claims for the sole purpose of establishing a date of claim. We strongly support the Fully Developed Claims goal of providing a response to claimants within 90 days. Transparency will be particularly important to ensure veterans' confidence in this process. As advocates for veterans, we accept the responsibility for helping them to understand that they are certifying the truthfulness of the information that they are authorizing for release of information necessary to ensure a rating decision. We recommend an increased role for state directors of Veterans Affairs in the overall effort to manage and administer claims processing, regardless of whether the state uses state employees, national chartered veterans service organizations, and/or county veteran service officers. Collectively, we have the capacity and capability to assist VBA. We are engaged in the establishment of standards for training, testing, and accrediting service officers to include continuing education and performance standards. Several states have taken the lead by integrating the FDC process into their claims operation. For example, an example that have yielded positive results is the Texas Veterans Commission state-funded initiative that included a 28-member team to specifically file fully developed claims. They have submitted nearly 8,900 claims to VBA for processing. Similar efforts of varying scope are ongoing in states nationwide with resources, organizational structure, and operating procedures varying from state to state. We ask that attention be given to the following areas. 1, disability benefits questionnaires need to be simplified and shortened, especially for less complex conditions. Doing so will enhance physician participation. 2, e-benefits makes it possible for veterans to file claims. However, the current website needs to encourage veterans to seek representation. Also, VBA needs to ensure that all states can easily access the Stakeholder Enterprise Portal. 3, outreach and trainings are critical to the success of the FDC program, and program coordinators should be included at the VA regional offices. 4, we are working with the VBA to ensure that future FAST letters include state departments of Veterans Affairs. And 5, to fully implement the Veterans Benefit Management System, it is valid and it must succeed in order to improve the claims process. Mr. Chairman and distinguished members of the committee, we appreciate your work on behalf of veterans, and be assured that state directors of Veterans Affairs remain dedicated to doing our part. We are partners with the federal VA in the delivery of services and care for our nation's patriots. As procedures and policies are developed within the FDC program, we look forward to participating in the process. We will continue to provide feedback as the program runs its course to achieve maximum impact in eliminating the claims backlog. Thank you for your inclusion in the National Association of State Veterans Affairs in this hearing, and I stand ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh, and I will begin the first round of questions. My first question is for Mr. Motto. You touched on these a little bit, but I want to go a little deeper and maybe clarify. In your testimony, you categorized the FDC program as moderately successful. What additional steps do the VA and other stakeholders need to take in order to make this program fully successful?
Well,
No, we can't fix every one of them. What's the big one we can tackle?
That's a very interesting question. I don't know whether the committee knows or not. I don't actually process claims myself. So what I'd like to do is take it back and speak with our national service officer and get his input. He was instrumental in writing the testimony for today's hearing, and I'd like to defer to his expertise to make sure that I'm giving you the best answer.
Please do. Then I want to touch on Mr. Wolf's expertise and experiences at the Chicago RO. Could you briefly describe the policy conversations that took place and ultimately shaped the FDC program into its current form? And along that line, were there some early challenges with the program in Chicago, and how were these addressed and resolved? And would you say the program is operating as envisioned when it was created in 2009?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I think the biggest thing was communication between the VSOs and the VA. Meeting with the management team, our management team, other VSOs, coming up with a plan to include everyone, and the program being totally, I guess, bought into. This was the most important key in the beginning stages. After that, the changes started to occur. One of the biggest things or obstacles that we were running into is veterans just didn't know about the program. Therefore, we started adapting the orientation programs. We started word of mouth with veterans. We started getting the word out. Once the veterans started coming in, wanting to do the program, it made it easier for us to process some of these claims. I would say that the program can improve. It is running smoothly. However, there's still a lot of veterans in every state that don't know about the program, and even ones that do know about the program, they need to be educated on the program in order to stay in the program and not be thrown out into the traditional process where it may take longer to get their claims resolved.
Would you say it's running about the pace that I think most people envisioned it?
I don't know what most people envision, Mr. Chairman. In Chicago, based on my experiences, we've increased the claims, FDC claims there, and I'm satisfied with the claims there, but I know that we can do better.
So, I mean, it sounds like a lot of what everybody's coming up with is much like I think a lot of the programs we have in the VA and in the federal government, nobody knows about it. And, you know, they know about it now, but that seems like one of the big problems with the onset of it. Can you talk a little bit about submitting more evidence and how that process works? Because as the last panel said, it sounded like it was pretty flawless, but it seems like you kind of have a little bit different of a view on how new evidence gets submitted and the process moves forward from there. Is it as seamless as the first witness said?
What happens based on my experience? When a veteran comes into our office and we educate them on what is needed, we initially file an informal claim. This protects the veteran's effective date, and it gives the veteran 1 year to obtain all the additional evidence needed. We give them a list specifically indicating what they need in order to stay in the FDC program. If a veteran submits something after the FDC claim is filed, at times that claim could be removed. By VA standards, it should be removed. However, this is where we've been using email communications with the VA, and it's become successful, and we'd like to see that continue and not remove these claims from the FDC program.
But it's not codified policy, correct?
No, sir.
But in your experience in the RO you were in, it worked with the open communications.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. It works in Chicago, and we'd like to see that nationwide, obviously, to protect our veterans.
Thank you very much for that. I'll recognize the ranking member, Ms. Titus.
Thank you. First, Ms. Jones, I'd like to thank you and the American Legion for visiting Reno. I hope we treated you well while you were there. I wonder if you could share with us any perceptions about the visit, or we heard some good numbers earlier from Mr. Murphy about some of the improvements there. I wonder if you could comment on what you found.
Thank you. We had a great visit in Reno. They treated us very nicely. When we went to Reno, we actually had an opportunity to visit with the Fully Developed Claims Coordinator and attend a Fully Developed Claims training meeting where the Fully Developed Claims Coordinator conducted training for the VSOs. And a lot of the fully developed claims from Reno had been brokered out. I think at the very beginning of the fully developed claims process with Reno and maybe the changeover and leadership, that they weren't quite sure at the beginning where those claims needed to go, and so some of the fully developed claims were just piling up. Looking at the amount of time that it took from a veteran to submit the information and then for Reno to act on it had a big lag time at the beginning. And then they brokered out most of those fully developed claims and started over, so to speak, with the ones that were being submitted to Reno. They did a much better job with the second set of fully developed claims that were coming through that office. We had an opportunity to talk to the American Legion service officers in Reno and train them as well. And when we went back to look at the Reno office through the VA and the American Legion, they are doing a much better job than before the visit.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm certainly glad to hear that. My other question is to Ms. D'Amato. You mentioned that there's a real need for the VA to make changes with regards to dependents and dependents claims and information for dependents. Do you have any specific suggestions to how we can address some of the challenges that dependents face when they file claims? And if you want to answer that, or anybody else can answer that as well.
Well, I would say that the way things were done previously, where the dependents were included as part of the veteran's claim, it seems like that would be a more efficient way to continue. Right now, under the FDC, apparently, with them having, it's like 2 tracks. And so even though it's a veteran and his or her dependents, at the end of the process, there's, different codes that have to be referred to, and, any correspondence that goes back and forth between the VA and the dependents and or the veteran are being done separately. And as the numbers show, now we're getting a backlog on the dependent issues. So, I mean, it's great that we're reducing the backlog with veterans, but are we, if we're just paying Peter to, Rob and Paul to pay Peter, whatever, are we really making any progress? Mm-hmm. So beyond that, as again, I can take this back and get more specific information, but for right now, that's really all that I could offer.
I'd appreciate that if you could. Thank you. And would anybody else like to comment on that?
I'd like to comment. So, for DAV standpoint, the best way to file a dependency claim, whether it be adding a spouse or a child, would be through the Stakeholder Enterprise Portal, where your claim can be done in 1.2 days versus more than 120 days, the paper route.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, maybe we could get some more information from the VA about why they changed this policy and what their reasoning was about why that would be a better way to do things, and see if it has turned out to be the case or not.
Okay, take a look.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to also thank you for convening this panel, and I really appreciate the nature of your questions about how do we ensure that something that is perhaps working well becomes fully successful. And the feedback that we've received today is especially helpful to that end, and I want to commend the VSOs who have been very responsive to our office. When we were writing this Faster Filing Act legislation, all of your organizations responded to us, gave us feedback to improve it, let us know if you could support it or why you could not support it. I wish we'd heard back from the VA before the subcommittee voted on it, before the full committee voted on it, sooner certainly than a day before we had today's hearing. But having said that, I think it's important to acknowledge that Mr. Murphy from the VA has remained. He's listening to your testimony. And I think that while we have that chance to have the administration here, to have those of us who might be able to offer legislative remedies to some of the problems and to get it fully successful, we should make the most out of it. And so before I ask some specific questions around that, I also wanted to, Mr. Marsh, through you, thank one of your member organizations, the Texas Veterans Commission. They co-hosted with our office earlier this month a Beat the Backlog event. And for the other members, it was highly successful. We had nearly 100 veterans come in. We were able to give them current status, file additional information. We were able to begin 22 new fully developed claims and start them online. So, a modest beginning, but it's something that we want to build on, and certainly TVC was instrumental in helping us do that, the Texas Veterans Commission. So for each of you, if you could each take, a minute or less and in the KISS manner that Mr. Cook was talking about, what is one, maybe two things that you want us to focus on to improve the FDC process, either administratively or legislatively? And begin with Ms. Jones and take it down the line.
Thank you. Though we certainly do support the fully developed claims process, there are a couple of concerns. One, more training. I think that some of the things we saw when we were out conducting the fully developed claim visits is that there was lack in consistency, where you would see one office, how they handled submission of new evidence, or if a veteran has, say they submit 5 contentions on their claims, the fully developed claim, and 4 of them are by definition the fully developed claims. It concerns me that they would push that whole claim, that whole veteran back out into the traditional process because one of those contentions does not meet fully developed claim criteria by definition. So we'd like to see work on that some to help us be able to have that veteran get some money coming into the homes of those veterans by adjudicating those 4 contentions and deferring the one and still have that be a fully developed claim by definition.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Obviously, DAV would like to see more accountability within the VA regional offices regarding the fully developed claims process.
Is that published data on a quarterly, monthly basis in terms of how those claims are being processed, the rejection rate, that kind of data and accountability?
More so accountability with management and the staff within the VA regional offices, just to hold accountability for the claims to be processed in a timely manner and to be taken seriously when VSOs and veterans are awaiting the decisions. We'd also like to think that the utilization of common sense methods that I spoke about in my testimony be utilized nationwide and not just throw out FDC claims for missing signatures and such.
And Mr. Wolf, I'm going to go to Ms. Zamato just to make sure I have enough time in what remains. Ms. Zamato, you mentioned the dependence issue. Would that be your primary recommendation for us to look at?
That would be probably the top thing. That, and I think I agree with what my colleagues have said. We need to have improved training for the VSOs and for the veterans themselves, and we need to have continuing education for the VA employees.
And Mr. Marsh, if you were to focus us on one issue that you think could improve this FDC process.
Would say that we need to let the FDC process run its course to work and support the ongoing efforts of training in all states at all regional offices, and funding and support by Congress is key and essential to making that happen. And key pieces of that is ensuring that the state enterprise portal works, because that is the conduit for states to get in and for veterans to submit those claims in FDC seamlessly and faster. And the Veterans Benefits, VBMS, these are all different pieces that make this process work to eliminate that backlog. And funding and letting these particular programs work, of course, we need to make it better and do more, which we are doing. I think that's the key to success.
Thank you. Thank you all. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. Ms. Nagat-McLeod, do you have any questions? I have one more question for Mr. Marsh. You noted in your written testimony that many areas of the country are still underserved due to veterans' lack of information and awareness to their benefits. Could you describe how your organization is addressing the issue and particularly how you're raising awareness for the FDC program?
What we're doing as a state is we're holding supermarket of benefits. These are kind of like rallies throughout the state with different areas where we invite veterans in and other state organizations to support our veterans in many different benefits. We also are sending out newsletters, and we're holding training sessions specifically focusing on FDCs now, but also to disseminate information about veterans benefits, period, throughout the state to help get the word out and get people involved, and also highlighting the importance of, by using this process, we can eliminate and reduce the time for rating decisions.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything else? Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the subcommittee, thank you for your testimony today. We look forward to continuing to work with you on the implementation of the FDC program. And we understand that your partnership with the VA is a crucial to the program's success, and you are all now excused. And I'd like to thank everyone for being with us today. The FDC program has great potential to reduce processing times for our veterans' disability claims, and I look forward to continuing to work with all of you to ensure that we implement the most efficient claims processing initiatives possible. I'd like to once again thank all of our witnesses for being here today. I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include any extraneous material. Hearing no objections, so ordered. Thank the members for their attendance today, and the hearing is now adjourned.